Hello there, I'm Chris Lozano and welcome to our studio. Today I've invited Steve Gumas with Colorado Home Mortgage to join us. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you for having me.
We are going to be going over closing costs and what that means to your transaction as a first-time home buyer, as a home buyer, whether you've been through the process before or not. Everybody is under the impression that they can get into a house with no costs, and that is not the case. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So with that, we're going to go over some of the closing costs that you can expect on any transaction in real estate. And as I said, I brought Steve in. Again, thanks for being here. We're going to try and cover a lot of information as quickly as possible. So I'm going to turn it over to Steve. And Steve, basically, in the beginning of a transaction, what can a buyer expect to get into a home when it comes to the closing costs? What can they expect?
Well, so you're going to have lender fees that we charge as the lender, but right up front you're going to have a credit report fee. We have to pull a credit report, so we'll charge for that. That's somewhere in the ballpark of $75. Then you're going to have an inspection fee. You're going to hire a third party to come out and inspect that home, so you will incur that fee out of pocket right away. And then you're going to have an appraisal fee, which is paid up front as well, because we hire an appraiser as a third party appraiser, so they want to get paid up front before they go out and do the actual appraisal. So those three fees that we disclose, you'll pay right up front. As the lender, we have a loan origination fee. That's for us to originate that loan, and that's how we get paid. There's also a processing fee. We have a third-party processor, and there's a charge for that processor to do their work. They'll handle your file and all your documents, and they'll submit that file to an underwriter. And then from there, you're going to have a title company that does some work in the background, so they have their fees. There's going to be a title search to make sure that the title is free of encumbrances and that it's a clear title. You're going to have title insurance that they charge in order to insure that title. There's going to be some recording fees for them to record the deed and the mortgage. There are going to be some prepaid fees for setting up the escrows. That's for your taxes and your homeowner's insurance. So there's going to be some fees up front to put in escrow. The homeowner's insurance, when that is put in place at the day of closing, that's paid a year in advance. So there's fees for that. And let me think what else we have.
Reinspection fees.
There's going to be reinspection fees. So when you initially pay a home inspector to go out and do that inspection, if there's anything that shows up on that inspection that the homeowner, the seller, needs to take care of, then that inspector will then charge to go back out, reinspect, and make sure everything's been taken care of. Now, on an appraisal, there could be a reinspection fee as well. If there's anything on the appraisal that comes up that needs to be taken care of, then the appraiser will charge for a reinspection fee as well.
So typically I've seen on a reinspect for an appraisal like $200, correct?
That's correct, yes.
So for instance, if the appraiser comes back and says there's some peeling paint on the side of the house, so we will get an appraisal with conditions that the house is going to be worth your contract sales price, and they will give us a full-blown signed off appraisal as long as that work is done.
Correct.
So unfortunately, in that situation, the inspector has to be paid to go back out to reinspect the property. And I have seen some really stupid reasons to go back to charge $200. So we want to make sure that this home is ready to be appraised, and we typically find that information out during the inspection that Steve was talking about. Typically on my side, you're going to have an inspection fee to inspect the property to make sure there's no problems with the property that you can't live with. So those inspections can cost typically about $400 on up, depending on the square footage of the house.
Correct.
So that's going to be one of the fees that you're going to need up front once we go under contract. Now, we don't have any other fees except for earnest money. When you're going under contract on a property, you're going to have an earnest money requirement that the seller is going to require as good faith for putting the house under contract. So those typically run anywhere from $1,500 on up. But that $1,500 on up, so let's say it's $2,000, that's going to go towards your closing costs when we get to the closing table. Okay, and that closing typically takes about 30 days. Okay, so keep in mind that you're going to have the appraisal fees up front, but we're going to do the inspection first, and then typically your credit report, you said about 75.
About 75.
75, so you're going to have that. After that, all the other fees are going to be billed to the closing table. So those fees, when Steve mentions they're up front, actually those are going to be calculated and taken out on the day of closing. Now, Steve has been in the business for a very long time, as I have, and I've seen closing costs that could end up into the thousands of dollars. You have your down payment requirement, whatever your down payment requirement is. Let's say it's a $400,000 house and it's $12,000 down payment. Well, typically your closing costs are going to be right around that same amount. So what you need to keep in mind is that I am going to ask for the seller to be paying, a good portion of those closing costs. Hopefully all the closing costs. So you're only going to be responsible for the down payment. Do you have anything to add to that? Did I miss anything?
No. Typically, closing costs are in the ballpark of 2.5% to 3% of the
sales price.
Correct.
The sales price.
Yeah, which is very close to what your down payment. Minimum down payment 3.5% on an FHA loan. So they're right in the same ballpark.
Okay. So with that covers pretty much what you have to expect. All these numbers are going to be different. So what you want to do is you want to talk to Steve when it comes to what you can expect, what you're going to see, for closing, what you're going to need for closing. Also on my end, we're going to go over what you are willing to pay and what I am going to be asking the seller for to cover the majority of those closing costs. Okay, well, I want to thank you for being here, Steve. Steve had a lot of good information concerning closing costs and this process. In our next video, we are going to be going over the first-time homebuyer programs, and once again, we're going to have Steve here to go over the different programs that we do have. Please like our video, share, subscribe. If you have any questions, you're going to see our emails right below. Feel free to contact us at any time. Thank you very much.